Thank you so much for joining us for the SaveScience launch. I'm Lee Cleaver, Vice President of Strategy and Growth for Outteach. We're so excited to kick off this new year-long campaign. I'd love to introduce you to Jeanne McCarty, Chief Executive Officer of Outteach, who's going to share a little bit about this campaign and background, and then we'll hear from some stories in the field.
Thank you, Lee, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeanne McCarty, the CEO of Outteach, and I want to thank you all so much for joining us today for our SaveScience webinar. I'm thrilled you could make it. All of us here at Outteach are really excited about collaborating with you on this initiative, and we're excited to unite so many different stakeholders who can help. On today's call, we have school and district leaders, we have corporate and government leaders, and we have individual champions who all want to help make a difference. And it's only together that we can raise awareness of this important issue and rally support for change. But before we start, I thought I'd share a little bit about myself and why SaveScience is so important to me. I grew up in South Mississippi, and I was in a family of educators and gardeners both. And so it meant that I was often educated outdoors outside of school time. I spent so many hours exploring gardens and the small creek behind my house. And in retrospect, I was really a young scientist myself. I was observing science in action and conducting my own experiments. I was always collecting data, and I love these outdoor experiences, and they're really what I remember most when I think back on my childhood and my education. And I knew everything that there was possible about amphibians, especially frogs, because I kept them as pets. And, you know, but I think about science in school, I didn't like science in school at all. And when I think back, it was because science at school was just not connected to the actual world. And it wasn't as active and engaging as the science I was active in learning in my backyard. It's because, you know, real world learning happens through these hands-on experiences, and more learning happens when young people are engaged in what they're doing and engaged in the learning process. When they're engaged, they're also often inspired, and it's even more true when we're talking about science, this need for engagement and the need for inspiration and real active learning. I didn't pursue science as a career, but it really was these early childhood experiences that shaped my career moving forward and keep me committed to this work in Outteach and Outteach. I'd also like to share a bit more about Outteach. Outteach creates opportunities for schools and districts to engage their students beyond the traditional classroom setting. We believe that all students, no matter their resources, should have access to this kind of engaging hands-on education that ultimately can transform their lives. Science is critical to this, and so are all opportunities in STEM and in active learning. Both science and STEM build foundational skills, you know, like the skills that we use every day, the skills like critical thinking and problem solving, collecting and analyzing data. These are the skills that are just so important for young people and their academic success, as well as their social success, and then fast forward ultimately to their career success. Both science and STEM inspire young people and introduce them to potential career paths that they just may not otherwise have exposure to. And this is really important because I'm sure some of you know that 13 of the 20 fastest growing industries are STEM related. STEM careers that are careers like those in science, in technology, engineering, and math. These careers have twice the annual salary as other jobs. But as a country, we're still facing a huge gap in the STEM career pipeline. Millions of STEM jobs are left vacant. And, you know, I think that it's because our education system is not preparing and inspiring enough students to study STEM subjects, and especially early on. So in addition to this shortage, there's also a critical need to diversify our STEM workforce. I mean, we need as many people as possible, and we need people bringing just a wide array of ideas and experiences to the table when solving our country's most significant challenges or designing our future. If you're not in a STEM-related field, this may not feel so relevant for you, and it may not feel like an issue that is important, but careers in STEM impact all of our lives just in countless ways every day. I mean, think about it. It's from the health care you receive to the roads you drive, the food you eat. STEM careers matter, and they matter to everyone every day. But to get there, and to get to a place where we can address these gaps in the pipeline, we need much more hands-on and early science instruction. It's critical if we want all children to have the same shot at a STEM career and ultimately grow our workforce. Students need science instruction, and they need it early, and they need it often. I mean, research shows career paths are largely set by 6th grade, so middle school is too late. And this is something that we need to remember. If children don't get early science, those doors to opportunity will close. In science education, it's not just for scientists. Science education benefits every student and every career path. Early science instruction, it helps students build 21st century skills that strengthen all career prospects. Those skills I mentioned before, like critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, and even informational literacy. But even though science is critical for everyone, not all students have access to effective science instruction early on. Unfortunately, elementary students in particular are missing out on quality hands-on science instruction. On average, elementary students only get 18 minutes per day. And if you break that down, that is just 4% of the typical school day spent doing science. So why is this? Particularly given the STEM gap and the opportunity to provide so many young people with a positive path forward, it's because science at the elementary school level is not often prioritized. Many districts focus their resources on math and literacy at the elementary level, and I want to be very clear, math and literacy are critical also to student success. So I'm not saying that we need science at the expense of math and ELA, but because science isn't prioritized, teachers rarely have the tools, they rarely have the training, and they rarely have the support resources they need to make science a bigger part of the curriculum. You can see this in the most recent National Math and Science Survey, where only 31% of teachers at the elementary level feel well prepared to teach science. And only 38% of elementary teachers say they have access to adequate science facilities. And these are major barriers to quality science education early on. These numbers are even worse when you look specifically at schools that are serving low-income students, where teachers rarely receive support to teach science. So it's this lack of time and this lack of training and tools for teachers at the elementary level that impacts our students and their futures. In fact, 78% of 4th graders in schools serving low-income students are not proficient in science. And just to be clear about what that means, so not proficient means that students don't understand some very basic concepts, like the fact that plants use their leaves to capture energy from the sun in order to make food. And if you don't understand that, I think that it's hard to understand that the earth depends on the energy from the sun for all of life. So as a nation, we're not setting our students up for a future in science or STEM if we don't provide them that quality hands-on science instruction early on. So, if you think about what is the long-term impact of this, we're already seeing some results, an impact of this lack of prioritization. Without a strong foundation early on, these same students have little understanding on which they can build on later. Science builds. You have to have that early foundation in elementary to build on what you're learning in middle school, high school, and beyond. And high school and college and even middle school have many interventions in science, but they really come too late. And particularly if you think back about career paths being set by 6th grade. So these early deficiencies, they quickly add up and they impact the rest of students' lives. So we see this as a country in the job market where students from low-income households are underrepresented in STEM careers. women, African Americans, and Latinos are underrepresented in STEM fields. And it's in part because the students that we're talking about aren't made to feel they belong early on, and they don't often see themselves engaging in activities that are science, much like I didn't know I was doing science in my own backyard. So to create a broad and a deep STEM pipeline, we need to include as many students as possible, and we need to give these young students just a wide variety of experiences and ways to engage with science, and outdoors is key to that. To have diverse and innovative solutions to future problems, we need to build this pipeline early on and starting in as early as elementary school. Not only will the nation benefit, but the students will too. Students in our low-income communities have the most to benefit from access to rewarding STEM careers, but they are the least likely to have access to them because that door closes after elementary school. Without effective science instruction early on, low-income students are effectively locked out of this upward mobility before they even know the door is there. So now that we have talked about the problem, I'd really like to offer some solutions and then hear from some of our teachers and principals out in the field. So how can we fix this? And what are some of the strategies that we can all use to address this problem? There are lots of groups out there that push into middle school and high school with science support, and that's great. And there are also a lot of efforts and a lot of tools that help provide engineering and robotics, computer programming kits to schools. And I'm always just thrilled and excited to make sure that low-income schools have access to these programs too. But OutTeach is a little different. At OutTeach, we employ two strategies to support elementary science instruction in low-income schools. First, we increase effective science instruction by training teachers to use the outdoors as a living laboratory where students can engage in hands-on science. So ultimately, we're bringing science down to earth for many, many students. And we focus on training the teachers to implement science standards. By focusing on this and on training teachers, we help them become more confident and more effective science instructors who are not only able, but they're excited to provide students with more frequent and more effective science learning. The outdoors is simple, and it's just a great instructional tool for elementary science because elementary science is focused on life and physical and earth science, and the outdoors is just where that takes place. So while we focus on science standards, we also focus on increasing science instructional time by training teachers how to integrate science into math, literacy, and other subjects. So rather than taking time away from these subjects, we train teachers to embed these science concepts and also to embed this hands-on learning approach using the outdoors into their existing math and language arts instructional plans. With cross-curricular learning like this, every subject wins, and so do our students. By focusing on improving daily teacher practice, we are also able to improve science instruction for all the teacher students throughout their entire career. So when you're working with teachers and you're shifting teacher practice, you're also providing that multiplier effect, and you'll reach students for many years to come. We need all of these existing groups and efforts, and we need more. It's only together that we can save science. So new this year, OutTeach has launched the #SaveScience campaign to rally and support teachers, school leaders, parents, companies, and government leaders, and also those individuals who really want to help us. We want to rally everyone together to join the cause and to advocate for early science education. We've set a bold new goal for ourselves, and we want to partner with you to make it happen. We want to bring 4 million hours of science instruction to students across the country this school year. School partners in doing this are providing roughly double the amount of daily instruction that most students are currently receiving. And we're inviting schools across the country to join the campaign and to provide students with the science instruction they need and to share what's working for them so that other district leaders and principals can learn about effective solutions that could work for their schools too. So you've heard a lot from me, and on that note, I want to introduce you to some school leaders that we're working closely with here at OutTeach and ask them to share their stories and to talk about how they're bringing much more science into daily instruction in their schools. So first, please welcome Center City Assistant Principal Micah Westerman and Lead Science Instructor Samantha Novak.
Hi, thanks for having me. Center City's Brightwood campus is one of 6 schools in our charter school network in Washington, D.C. Our schools are unique in that we serve pre-K3 through 8th grade. At Brightwood, half of our students are Hispanic and the other half are African or African American, with a large percentage of our students being children of recent immigrants from Ethiopia and Eritrea. More than half of our students are English language learners, and about 85% of our students are economically disadvantaged. As a leader, one of my top goals is to increase academic rigor and create an environment of teacher empowerment. At Brightwood, we infuse much of our instruction with more student-driven learning to help increase critical thinking and problem-solving skills. We want to empower teachers to create transformational learning experiences for our students, because we recognize that empowered teachers get to focus on the kinds of experiential learning that students love. Though data-driven and focused on continual improvement, we intentionally don't have numeric goals for teachers or students. We never want to push toward a short-term gain if it sacrifices long-term growth. Every year, we can see this approach producing real long-term results for students, both in terms of academics, 21st century skills, and social-emotional learning. And while focusing on student-driven, inquiry-based instruction certainly isn't easy, it transfers some of the work from teacher to student and turns what can be a grind for teachers into an exciting challenge for students. This approach has fueled our growth on state assessments over the past few years. Since 2015, our percentage of students scoring 3 or better on PARCC in math has gone from 63 to 74, and in ELA, it's gone from 58 to 77. As part of our focus on inquiry-based instruction, we also want to build a culture of hands-on outdoor learning at our school. So we give our students hands-on learning opportunities early on, laying the foundation on which to build later. Hands-on instruction is so important because it helps students build problem-solving and critical thinking skills, the basis of a scientific mindset, but also the skills that are essential to success in all subjects and in life. At Brightwood, we've adopted the next generation science standards, which align very well with our focus on inquiry-based education. In our elementary grades, we do this primarily through cross-curricular learning, embedding much of our science instruction into students' core classes. Science is a meaningful lens through which to view math and language arts instruction at our school. This focus on student-driven and inquiry-based instruction sparks student curiosity and engagement, helping students build an enthusiasm for learning that they carry with them to middle and high school and beyond. We're really glad you're all interested in the #SaveScience campaign, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can all achieve together. Creating an engaging, challenging, and supportive environment where teachers and students feel welcomed and supported is one of every administrator's goals, and supporting science instruction early on is a critical part of that. Thank you so much. I'm now going to turn it over to our star middle school science teacher here at Brightwood.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. As a middle school science leader, I know my colleagues at other schools often struggle with students coming in lacking not only the foundational knowledge they need to succeed in science, but also essential skills like critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity that science instruction helps to produce. It's important to get students engaged and interested in science early on before they decide they don't like science or that science isn't for them, which is a big issue for students of color, girls, and students from low-income communities. We want students to come to middle school with an enthusiasm for science. We've worked really hard as a middle school team of teachers over the past 3 years, and our hard work and commitment to consistent, high-quality academic instruction has paid off. We're currently ranked as the #1 public middle school in all of DC out of 72 middle schools. As Micah shared, our commitment to focusing on inquiry-based instruction with hands-on learning opportunities is incredible for sparking student curiosity, and developing problem solving and critical thinking skills, as well as creativity and decision making. These skills all matter and they all build off one another. While students may not be recognizing that they are thinking like a scientist, these hands-on instruction is building a scientific mindset that my colleagues and I are able to build in from middle school and use to continue to foster an enthusiasm for science. At Center City, for example, we have a variety of science programs to ensure we're reaching kids in different ways, like the Anacostia River cleanup or building animal habitats. If we want to diversify the STEM career pipeline and encourage more students to pursue jobs, I believe it's important to diversify the ways in which we approach science instruction. I've been excited to learn about Outteach's #SaveScience campaign and know that this national network is putting a stake in the ground around more science instruction. I'm excited for what we can accomplish together. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Principal Westerman and Ms. Novak. We really appreciate your perspective. Now I'd like to introduce you to Jarri Goodman. He's an instructional coach based out of Atlanta, Georgia.
Hey, I'm out of a school in the back right now. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you, Jarri.
It's kind of hard to find a quiet place in the middle of the school day. Well, my name is Jarri Goodman. I'm an instructional coach with Outteach. As an instructional coach, I have the opportunity to work with teachers, modeling and teaching teachers how to teach experiential learning. Before joining Outteach, I was an elementary math and science teacher in the metro Atlanta area. What led me to becoming an instructional coach was my observation of the need of effective science instruction that is engaging and meaningful for students. I figured a great way to impact students across the county, district, and state was by becoming an instructional coach, training teachers how to teach science lessons that is engaging and also fun. And I believe that science is important in elementary because science and STEM lessons teach students how to engage in arguments, how to have evidence that support their argument, also how to ask questions about the world around us and how to investigate. And these things just really give students the exposure at an early age and help develop an enthusiasm for science that are carried on with them from middle school and high school. So giving students effective science lessons at an early age really helps not only build their science background, but also social skills. A lot of science lessons are geared towards collaboration, working with partners, being creative, supporting one another, and also learning how to take feedback from arguments and making corrections. These things are what students need to be successful in the 21st century. Outteach on-the-job embedded coaching is one of the most amazing things I have ever seen. As a science teacher working for 7 years in a county, I cannot recall a time that I received on-the-job science coaching at my school. So being able to go into a school and model for a teacher how an experiential learning can be engaging outdoors, how it can bring the content into life, and how to integrate ELA in math is just amazing. I love it when teachers at the end of a model lesson tell me, hey, that lesson was amazing. I feel confident. I can go in and actually implement it. And being able to work one-on-one with a teacher throughout the school year, setting goals and staying in constant communication to make sure that we are meeting goals that are not only benefiting the teacher professional development, but also benefiting their students as well. In so many counties, there's a heavy push for math and ELA, but not science. Our teacher's job is to go in, give teachers that support, the training, so that teachers will have the confidence to deliver those impactful lessons to their students. I had an experience last year with a student that was a behavior issue, and the power of experiential learning really took over when the students were learning about erosion and weathering. This student went outdoors, was able to pinpoint where erosion and deposition was taking place in the landform. He was so engaged, he was collaborating with his peers versus him sitting in a classroom having behavior issues. Me having that experience really changed my viewpoint on how impactful science lessons can be for anybody, any student. Okay, I gotta run to my next model session.
Hi, Jarri.
All right, thank you so much, Jarri. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Jeanne to share a little bit more about what the campaign will look like for the remainder of the school year.
Thanks, Lee. And I just also want to thank Jarri. I'm always inspired by just his stories from the ground and the field, and as are the hundreds of teachers he's working with across Georgia. I also want to just say that through that instructional coaching model, I think it shows that teachers also learn best when they're learning in hands-on ways. Jarri is side by side with teachers every day in their school setting, helping them become more effective at teaching active science lessons. So thank you, Jarri. So, as we look ahead at OutTeach, we're excited about how this school year is going to unfold. And we really want to invite everyone on this call and all of our partners to contribute their voice and contribute their support to this issue. It's just one that is so important. To inspire others to take up the cause, we're going to be spotlighting the terrific efforts and the successes of schools like Center City. We're going to profile science teachers and individuals in STEM careers and the impact that science just has on all of us in our everyday lives. So what you see here is a calendar of how our campaign is going to roll out. In November for National STEM Day, we'll work with schools and corporate partners to celebrate the importance of STEM throughout the eyes of students, teachers, and professionals across the country. In February, we'll be looking at engineering specifically and engineering jobs and innovations. In March, we're focusing on nutrition science and how it impacts students' health. In April, we plan to leverage Earth Day to shine a spotlight on environmental science specifically. By revealing how science impacts everyone, everywhere, we're hoping to get as many district and government leaders, principals, teachers, students, and companies excited about science instruction, particularly at the elementary level, and the opportunities it provides, and we're asking everyone to advocate for change. So please sign up to receive more information throughout the year about the campaign and the steps you can take, depending on who you are, to support early science instruction. I want to thank you all so much for joining us again and adding your support to this movement. I know everybody has such busy days, and I appreciate you taking time out of yours to hear more about our SaveScience campaign. We really need every single one of you to make this vision a reality. Together, and only together, we can put more students on the path to a bright career and help fill this STEM gap and ensure a healthy, happy, and more productive future for everyone. Thank you so much.